Call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Here.
Mr. Freehan is present. Mr. Boda?
Here.
Mr. Patsalos?
Here.
Mr. Horn?
Here.
Ms. Blair?
Here.
Mr. Blackstock?
Here.
All present, you have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Kathy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? I would like to make a comment. We have a future Eagle Scout here that we're going to present a certificate to. I'd like to do it under public comment, rather than have them wait through all this other stuff. So Cindy's here, the park chairman, and the board, and we'll do that then, if that's all right with everybody. So if there's no additions or deletions to the agenda, a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Also move. Support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the agenda. No further comments. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of August 6, 2018. You have them in your packet.
If there are no corrections or deletions, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of August 6, 2018.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we accept the minutes, approve the minutes of August 6, 2018. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? At that time, I guess we'll do Cindy Boda, the chair of the Park Commission.
My name's Cindy Boda. I'm the chair of the Park Commission, like Larry said. And tonight we have Nicholas Redinger with us. And he wasn't able to come to a park meeting, and we wanted to recognize him. So we decided to do it at a township board meeting. And Nicholas has applied for his Eagle Scout. And he and his family and his troop and a lot of other helpers put the new activity in the dog park. They built that and designed it, and we'd like to recognize Nicholas for that.
You get up here and then you look that way, you'll be on TV.
So, Mr. Simons, would you like to?
Yeah, this is a certificate of appreciation awarded to Nicholas for designing and building the new dog park activity in the East China Township Park, awarded on the 20th day of August 2018, and signed by myself as the township supervisor, with the recognition of everybody on both boards, the township board and the park board. So, there you go. Thank you. Nice job. I think it's a nice addition to our park. That dog park is really active. I mean, there's hardly a time when I go by there that I don't see one dog in there, or 6 or 8. There's usually cars in that parking lot, so I think it was a good project for you to do.
Absolutely, yeah. We really appreciate it. It's something we wanted as the park board to do for a long time. And when our park manager gave Nicholas a few ideas, and he was all about the dog activity. So instead of building a bench or doing, something that's useful too, but this is something different and something that will be enjoyed by all the people. They've been asking us for something like that in the dog park for a long time now, so.
And thank you to your family, too, for supporting you guys. I'm sure there was a lot of thought went in there with your parents and what you were doing next. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
just don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want to. It's up to you. Yeah.
We do have a lot.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I'd like to do that, but thank you.
Well,
Thanks
thank you.
again.
Thank you again.
Well appreciated. Okay, next, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the C1, July 2018 St. Clair Fire Report. We have the August 1, 2018 Beautification Committee Minutes, and we have the July 2018 Revenue and Expenditure Report. Is there any questions on any of those? I have one. On the Beautification Committee, I think, Kathy, you're on that?
Yes,
What is our status on that? Is we're down to one or two people?
yes. We are going to have a meeting in September. We're trying to finish up a couple things, and then I think we might fizzle out because
No volunteers?
we can't get volunteers.
So, I mean, we'll make the announcement again. We need people on the Beautification Committee if people are interested in joining and working on what flowers and stuff in our township, in our public areas. We sure could use you, but if not, we're probably gonna disband the beautification.
Yeah, I'm happy to still keep planting flowers when they
Okay.
need to be, but,
That was my only question, because I'd like to know what's going on there after
Right.
your September meeting.
right, thank you.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion that we accept the consent agenda.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have invoices of $90,354.14. We have accounts payable of $119,890.47. We have a payroll direct deposit of $33,093.28. We have EFT payments of $11,952.08 for a total disbursement of $255,289.97.
I'll make a motion that we pay the bills in the amount of $255,289.97.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we pay the bills in the sum of $255,289.97. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand, yes. Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes,
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
It carried.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to new business.
Excuse me, just a moment. On the checklist here, I noticed there was a payment to Kevin's Lawn Care and Snow Removal Incorporated, $37,550. What did they do for that amount of money?
Well, it was $39,000, and we have the deduction of $1,900 for the restoration of all along the front of your houses there. They were the contractor that we awarded the bid.
You gave it to Kevin.
We gave it to Kevin's
Okay.
Landscape.
All right, that answers the
And
question.
then I worked with Blaine, and we took it back to them. There was a couple of properties that they didn't do. Actually, the DPW did a little bit of it, so he knocked $1,900 off that. We had authorization for $39,000 something.
Okay, I was just.
Any other
wondering.
questions?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay.
That answers my question.
Okay. So that was part of it, so we've already passed this, so. Moving on to the wastewater operators' request for employee seminar training. I guess that was brought up the last meeting. I've done a little checking on that. What is involved here is they're not going to like Frankenmuth or Mount Pleasant. They're gonna go home and work on their computer and do this training.
We're not going to, there's,
They're not gonna be gone, they're gonna be away from the job. Our policy, as you can see in there, says that we will pay their time off, but I mean, you guys were here when we passed this. Was that the intent here?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
The question is, this employee's gonna take 3 days off, he's gonna go home and get on his computer and do this training.
Okay,
Is that acceptable for our policy?
he is only receiving a day's pay from us, right? We are not paying for the course, we are
Not paying for the
mileage.
course, we're getting,
We're not paying any other kind of activities
No.
except for his time off from work,
correct.
his day's pay.
and it's now 3 days.
3 days pay, and they're not consecutive, they'll be,
They're not consecutive, will be scattered.
Didn't we just do this? We did this exact same thing. Didn't we do it a few months back for an employee?
no, we haven't done it under these circumstances. I think we sent an employee someplace for training.
Right, we sent him for training and we paid him for the day.
Right. But usually, in the past, they've went someplace and had but this guy has to show the registration that he's registered for this class. I guess my question was, why are we not doing it at work on our computers? But, according to the supervisor, it would be hard for him, he'd be distracted at work doing it. And he didn't want to tie up the computer all that time, so. Because the supervisor is going along with it. I don't have a problem with it, I just want to make you aware that this is what's going on. And maybe we want to adopt something in our new policy, to include that.
Well, we do have a union agreement right now. And I don't think we can deviate from that unless we bargain it and take it back to the table or something. I mean, our
Okay.
union agreement says that we do not offer the education to pay mileage or to pay food or pay hotels or pay the class. We don't do that. But we do pay the day's wage.
Correct. That's the policy, that's what it
So-
says right here.
I mean, I really don't think at this time this board has a lot of say in that matter. I mean, unless we renegotiate or go through our union. So I mean, if it's just a day's pay he's looking for, I think that would fall under this parameter. I mean, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think that would fall, because again, we're not giving him any extra money.
And I don't think, at this point, I agree. I don't think we can change the policy. But I guess the question is in going into the future, because this is probably going to happen a lot more, where they're asking to take just training online, because a lot of places are just, it's the cost issue, to travel somewhere and do this. So more and more, they're gonna be doing it online. I guess the decision will be made in the future. Do we want them to do it here, or do we care if they do it at home?
I don't know, it's whatever the board wants to do with it, I guess. But everybody understands what I'm saying here, what they're doing, they're gonna be home taking it, I don't know.
Was it always to be at his house, Larry? I thought he was going somewhere with them. I thought did that change?
Well, I asked, and they said he would be going home to work on his computer at home to do this.
This is something new.
That's what I'm saying, it's something new. It says here, the policy is pending the approval of the township supervisor and the East China Township Board.
When a number of these seminars now, when they put them online, you can't cheat and cut down the time, because you have to go through the entire amount of information that's presented on one slide before you can go to the next one. So it isn't as if he can do 8 hours. I mean, if it's 24 contact hours, I'm sure it is it really takes that amount of time to go through the online training. You can't skip ahead necessarily, you have to complete the whole thing. And that's how they're scheduling it. That way they can justify that you have equivalent number of class hours as if you attended the seminar.
Because I pulled this up, and this is out of Sacramento College. I mean, so there's no way you can go to Sacramento for
Sacramento
an
State.
8-hour class.
And I don't have a problem with it, because most of my CEUs are gathered the same way. Just sit in front of my computer and do it.
And we're only going to do this just to get their CECs that they need to keep their license, right?
Two
I
and a
mean,
half.
this is not going to open up to everything.
This is going to be 2.5 continuing education credits.
Yeah, the CECs is what they call it, continuing education credits.
The reason why I made the statement was that you mentioned about using the computer at the office, or at the wastewater treatment plant, or at the treatment plant, he would be basically there for his full 8 hours on the computer, not doing anything else but taking the course. So for all practical purposes, we would not have his services for the day,
Correct.
even if he were at the computer and not at home.
I mean, there may be such a thing as down the road, we can have a computer room here, and if they want to do this stuff here too, you know? I mean, he's going to be using his personal computer to do this. I don't know if there's a charge. I would imagine there's a charge to get on this. I mean, we're not paying that, but it's whatever the board wants to do. I mean, as far as approval of these classes, I mean, we let the individuals pick the classes that they have to get their continuing, their CECs. So we don't do that. They have to maintain their license.
I mean, I'll make a motion that we allow him to go to the, what's the proper term here? To allow Josh to go to, was it Operation of Wastewater Treatment Plants 2, which is a class online, as long as it meets our current policy in terms of training and seminars.
I'll support that.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we allow Josh Corbett to take these days off to do his continuing education credits. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. No, we probably should do roll call. Let's do a roll call.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas,
Yes.
Mr. Boda,
Yes.
Mr. Freehand, yes. Mr. Simons?
Yes. Motion carries. All right, moving on to new business two, we have the participation in the flu shot clinic at River District Hospital. I included that in your packet. They're just asking if we're still interested in it. We've been doing it for a number of years. It costs us anywhere between $600 and $1,200, depending on what kind of people show up, so. Those are the last numbers I remembered.
We gonna go.
So with that, I guess if we want to continue that, we need a motion to continue the flu shot clinic.
So moved.
I'll support it.
It's been moved and supported that we continue with the flu shot clinic at River District Hospital. And we're in partners with the Rotary Club too of St. Clair. So they pick up half and we pick up half, so. And thank you to them too, because they do all the registering and the work. So, did we do a roll call on that yet?
Mrs. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas,
Yes.
Mr. Boda,
Yes.
Mr. Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons
Yes.
and Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to new business three, we have a waiver letter regarding land use and zoning engagement for DTE. They sent this letter to me last week. I got it to our attorney for a opinion, a legal opinion, and I included that on your desk tonight from Kelly Law. What she's saying is it doesn't really, if we're good with it, it doesn't affect anything that we're doing here or legally. If they have to get into a real legal matter, they have to back out, and she wants to make sure that that I can sign it and then send it to her, and she's gonna tag a letter on, make sure. I talked to the Steve Mans from Miller Canfield, and that's what he explained to me. According to our attorney, this is done quite commonly when law firms represent the same clients. And they called us first. Miller Canfield called me and said, they're one of their customers. And what we used Miller Canfield for was the SRF loans that we got, I think for the water plant and for the sewer plant revision that, I know I dealt with them. And I think they dealt with them back in '99 when they did the sewer, or the water plant, so. If nobody has any questions, I'm in favor of doing this, so if somebody wants to make a motion or have a comment, we're open to hear it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the waiver letter regarding the land use and zoning engagement for DTE.
I'll support.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a support that we go ahead and sign this waiver letter for DTE. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business 4, the resignation medical retirement for Teresa Renshaw. You have that in your packet. The only thing, when she turned it in, we were having some discussion, so her effective date is going to be today, will be August 20th. Teresa's done a great job for a lot of years here for her. I mean, we're going to really miss her. She's done this water billing, and she's been the deputy treasurer for probably 20 years, 25 years. I think she's been employed for 27 years.
27 years.
So, I hate to see her go. I want to wish her the best. But we need a motion to accept her resignation. And in accepting this resignation, also, you see at the bottom is she will no longer be the deputy treasurer. We got into that trouble before. That's kind of why I postponed this for a week until we could get straightened out. And she's fine with it. So that's why her date is August 20th.
I will make a motion to accept with regrets the resignation and medical retirement of Teresa Renshaw. We'll miss you, Teresa. Thank you for all your good work.
I'll support.
And maybe they can enclose a letter with that
Yeah, we're going to do a certificate, yeah.
regrets that she's leaving.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to accept the resignation and medical retirement of Teresa Renshaw. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This leads us into item 5 under new business. Appoint Irene Antowicki as the deputy treasurer. This is at the request of Don Boda, our acting treasurer. We've talked to Irene. She's had past experience as a deputy treasurer.
I believe Donna Marie said she was.
Yeah. And she's done treasurer work in Troy too, so I think she'll be a good fit for that, so.
How's she doing, Larry? Okay?
Oh, yeah, great, yeah. It really, it's stuff she's done. We're
Oh, yeah.
a little different. Things are in a little different spots, but it's basically the same things. So we'll need a motion to appoint her as the deputy treasurer.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Irene as deputy treasurer.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we appoint Irene as the new deputy treasurer. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. She's our new deputy treasurer. We will be getting her sworn in and getting her on the bank accounts at ASAP. That's why we kind of wanted to hang on to Teresa until we got to that point. All right, moving on to item 6, the appointing of Larry Nichols to the Planning Commission.
There's no discussion, I'll make a motion that we appoint Larry Nichols to the planning commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Larry Nichols to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to welcome him. I think he'll be a wealth of knowledge on the Planning
Yes,
Commission.
you will.
If there's no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, item 7 under new business, appoint Daniel Russell to the Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Daniel Russell to the planning commission.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to appoint Daniel Russell to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Again, I think Danielle will be a good candidate. She's a business owner. She has a lot of knowledge about what's going on, especially in the business world. So I think she'll be a great asset to the Planning Commission. So, no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the appointment of Gary Love to the Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Gary Love to the planning commission.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to appoint Gary Love to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, that this will bring the planning commission up to its full complement of
Right.
7 members.
Awesome.
I'd like to mention something about Gary Love. He has a lot of in-the-field experience. He worked for, I believe it was Consumers.
Consumer.
And so he should be able to bring a lot of knowledge to the Planning Commission also. So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Gary Love. Next, new business item 9, appoint Pam Kelp to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, we appoint Pam Kelb to the zoning board of appeals.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to appoint Pam Kelp to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there any further discussion?
I just would like to thank all 4 of those people for stepping up and volunteering to help out our township, and I'm sure they're gonna do a good job. And again, like we said, we need people on these boards and we need the volunteers, so I'd like to thank all 4 of them for stepping up.
Especially if we've been having a hard time getting people.
Well, this is a list I've been working on. I've had these people, but now there's more to come too, because we still have 3 or 4 more openings on other boards. And we have 3 or 4 people in line. Now, we can't appoint to the Park Commission. That's yours. I can say we're looking for people on the Park Commission, yeah.
Find somebody for us to
Oh. Yeah. I have somebody in mind, maybe I can give you the name. So again, I think Pam, she's volunteered, she wants to be on something, and I don't know what her background is, but I think she'll do a fine job on there, and we need people on there, so. I guess, no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We appoint Pam to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That concludes our new business. Now we're moving on to old business, Urban Drive Lift Station change orders. You have that in your packet. We've got Anthony here from PCE to answer any questions that may arise here.
So,
meeting you for the first time, so my name's Anthony Theodoro. I guess maybe what will help is if I run down the kind of list of events that happened during the rehabilitation of that station, so that you guys have a better understanding, or at least background to the importance of those items. So basically, the station had to go into bypass, so that's a secondary pumping system that's allowing the station allowing sanitary flow to continue downstream, while allowing the station to be closed for the new controls, new pumps, new valves, and all the components were replaced. So obviously, we don't have bypass pumping in-house here with our own equipment. It has to be hired out by a company called Mercino, and so you pay daily or weekly or monthly, depending on what you agree with them. And so the clock starts ticking when a bypass happens, and it's you need to be able to be decisive and on top of things if you run into issues. And so this station was bypassed and rehabbed in June. So I took notes the day I'd spent the entire day out there. We had several issues that happened during the bypass. It's an old station. It's given you service for over 40 years, and that's for pumps and valves and things like that. That's quite uncommon. So you've gotten quite a lot out of the station up until this point, and we're installing all the newest technology from Flight, which is a system that also gives you a warranty and does which I presented before we started on this, does the clog-free resistance. And as of 6/20, the station's been running without any issues. So since June, so that's 2 months now. So that is a success. The problems that we ran into when the bypass started first were certain incompatibilities with old technology. The first being the level sensor. Very unlikely to find a level sensor that usually they are an analog type signal, which is very common for devices. That one was a voltage signal, and so that has some susceptibility to different inconsistencies in power. Okay, and so it ties in together with a second issue, which is that we received a high voltage surge, which was recorded in the new controls on 6/19. So 6/19 or 6/20, really early in the morning, I think it was. And we recorded it. It was at like 7 a.m. It faulted the one brand new pump, and the surge protection protect the rest of the controls. But the breaker was tripped when I got there at 9:30. The 20 amp breaker on pump 1 was tripped. It took us about an hour or two to figure out that surge actually damaged the brand new pump, which had a comm failure. So it was just not communicating. And new technology like that, if it doesn't communicate, it will stop. It will not work because it doesn't want to damage any componentry, And so that's a part of the whole warranty provided by the manufacturer. And so I was able to get a hold of the supplier, who immediately reacted, and it took us the entire day, but by 7:30 at night that same day, they had a brand new pump put in, all under warranty, no cost to the township. I stayed to make sure that everything went okay, and in that time period, we had a GFI receptacle, and it needed to be routed away from what's called the high legs. So the way that most things, these are called deltas, the type of three-phase that you have here, and all along the river, it's very similar. And when you have that surge go through, you have the way that the wiring is done. You need to be able to isolate power so that you can, if you can't go down into a pit that doesn't have exhaust ventilation and things like that, and you have the manufacturer honoring the warranty, we need to maintain, fresh oxygen and everything else in order to finish the new pump installation, the reaction. And so that's item number 2, got added by the contractor. And the third item is the flow meter. So this pertains to your current or previous and current integration team. So you use a company called MIC, I think it's called, Michigan Industrial Controls. And so they have installed all your radio network that talks to all your sanitary pump stations. And so it took us quite a while to allow them to give us access as the township engineers to integrate that station completely. In that interim time, there was no communications to the station with the DPW. So to accommodate that and to at least provide, what is happening at a station that we've just experienced a big power surge and failure at, we utilized some of the features in the flow meter that I was able to incorporate into that cabinet. And how that came about is due to the time delays, and they're only getting worse because everybody is renewing these stations all throughout Michigan. And so now, if you had a delay in a year ago that was 10 weeks out, now the 18 weeks is not uncommon because everybody wants the same technology, the same pumps, the same specifications. And so due to those delays back in April, we took on the task of making sure that cabinet was designed and built, and so PCE. And so we were able to save $8,000 by doing it that way. And so we included a flow meter in that because the project didn't have a flow meter, and that's a very useful item if you're trying to determine if you have infiltration and inflow issues and monitoring downstream. That's all stuff that I had discussions with the DPW. It was a very good decision because during this interim where we were unable to get communications, I was able to use some of the features in that flow meter to maintain communications with that station for the week it took us to get it integrated, or to get access. We got it integrated in less than 24 hours, but until we could convince the integration team to allow us access, I used that flow meter, which gives us flows going through the cycles of the station and flows going through on our phones. And so I was able to give access to Blaine from the DPW, who could log in and see that the pump station is going and cycling and that everything's okay, And so, which he's used to doing. But in the way that's currently set up, which is through the SCADA program at the wastewater treatment plant. So that's now back to its original way. And so, but, in order to facilitate that, the electrical contractor provided those wiring, because you have both power and communications, and you had two ways of communicating, be it the cellular card that we gave free of charge to allow the township to monitor that. We took it back when we were done. We use it all the time. From here to New Baltimore, we use them. And then the secondary part of it was then wiring that permanently into the SCADA system at the wastewater treatment plant. So that's that. And then the final item is the alternative sump pump. So they replaced the sump pump, and that sump pump could not be adjusted, and it has a very shallow, the design of those can stations has a very shallow sump. It's only about 6 less than 7 inches, 6 and something. And so many sump pumps are not able to be adjusted. That particular one was not. It was provided by the supplier, and the supplier, when they came to do some adjustments to the check valves, because it was allowing about an inch of water to fill up in the bottom of that dry pit. And so I instructed the contractor, LaBelle Development, to replace that with an appropriate sump pump. And that, I believe that sump pump was either to be returned or to be given to the DPW. My understanding through him was it was given to the DPW to be used in another application. And so that's the $678. Obviously, that number 4 item,
We don't have an amount of 600 what?
We don't have a number 4 item. We have 3.
We got number 4, right?
right, it's on my summary sheet though.
Oh, the summer sheet.
But it's not on that other item because it's still to be TBD, right? To be determined where that old sump pump is, if they were able to return it and then replace it with the appropriate sump
What did you say
pump.
that amount was, 6 what?
It was $678, was just the price of the pump, and that, they didn't charge anything to do that. Obviously, it's a service call and they have a maintenance warranty bond, so they have to honor that, so.
It's on that
And that's not to mention some other items that, I don't know when's the last time the township renovated or rehabbed a pump station here. But,
Well, we did the one down here on Rico Road here a few years ago.
yeah, here at the, within your property boundaries. So, gonna have to understand the pitfalls that'll run into situations when we're out in the community with the rehabs happening. This one was in somebody's front yard. And so we were right in the middle of that neighborhood. And so, the landscaping issue that Larry and I had to deal with, the contractor, eventually came and saved that landscaping. There were some issues where he had
Well, I
thought
wouldn't
he was
say it's all
understood.
saved yet.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's on the road to recovery, if you will.
What is the warranty on that stuff, a year?
A year, yes. Yeah. And I reminded the contractor of that so that, because that is his responsibility to
A
maintain.
couple issues I had.
So.
This came to my attention, I think, last Thursday or Friday.
Well, I tried to have it on the previous,
Well, I
Agenda,
guess
yeah.
Thursday or Friday of,
It's August
the
2nd.
13th or something like that, before our meeting before this.
Hmm.
And it was too late to put it on that meeting that I wasn't at.
right.
But my question is, you said this level transducer.
Yeah.
Why didn't you know that that wasn't compatible with what our system is? You engineered this, why was this just popped up as a surprise that this wasn't compatible?
If you want the features that provide the warranty, then you can't have a circuit board, which is how that level sensor works, interfacing between the controls and the level sensor. It's interfering with the operation of
You
the,
didn't know that going into this when you designed all this?
that circuit board wouldn't
Wouldn't
operate.
handle that we
The-
had to buy this transducer for an additional $1,582?
Well, the compatibility issue, no. But the thing is that those Magnova boards are also, and this was a decision that I had checked with the DPW first
Yeah,
before
Blaine-
doing.
I talked to Blaine, he was supposed to be here tonight, but he has
Yeah.
got a prior engagement.
Fine.
One of the things he told me about that
Mhm.
transducer is he agreed we had to have it done.
Yeah.
So he told you to go ahead and do it,
Mhm.
but you didn't give him a price.
Well, I don't, LaBelle gave him a price, I remember.
Somebody gave him a
I have an email chain
He
to,
said, but that's his
show that.
bad, he just assumed that it would be a.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't know
no,
if
it's
that's a
not,
lot or
it's not his bad, that's a correct decision to make, because he has his other stations that have those Magnova boards, and they don't make those anymore. And so if you want that other one, the next station to fail and not have a replacement for it, the best decision was to use the incompatible, it's still good, it's still in the DPW. The township didn't lose it. It's not thrown in the garbage, it's
Right.
on the shelf, ready in case another one fails, and he
So
has a
Blaine's
spare, he
agreeing
has no
that
spares.
that's okay.
So,
That was,
yeah.
now when you go to this,
Mhm.
he wasn't real sure what you're talking about with this GFI receptacle.
Yeah.
And an additional 110 circuit tie-off high leg due to high risk of
Power
power
surges.
surges at location.
Right.
Why wasn't that figured into the initial job?
A power surge from DTE? That's, yeah, you can't factor that in. They won't even,
How come nobody else in the
take
neighborhood had a
responsibility
power
for it.
surge? I had one complaint in the whole neighborhood that day.
I got, the evidence is in the HMI from Flight.
Edison never called and said we had a power surge. The
I
only
don't know.
place that we heard it was from you on that station.
I can provide you the evidence of that. It's in the, it's recorded in the controls exactly what it is. Nobody else has a,
So we have one,
has
why wouldn't
a
you?
high-tech,
Are you saying we're gonna put this
computer.
surge protect, this, what do they call it, the $800 one, 880, we're gonna put that GFI in every lift station from now on? Surge
yeah,
protection?
so how the GFI is important is in the response to that emergency, all right? I was on the site all day, okay? You didn't receive any bill from me because that's how we do things at PCE. We care about the projects that we're involved in. So the GFI was needed to keep the exhaust fan going so that Kennedy Industries could send a man down in the pit and replace that pump.
Now, that's on the panel box?
Yeah, it's outside so that we can, yeah, we can reroute that. And
I
the,
did $880 to put that GFI in.
it's also the electrician's time to do it, you know? Their
Yeah, but
licensed
it's in the
electrician.
box, the power's in the box, we're just drilling a hole and putting that on.
I agree that that's high,
And what
but,
Blaine asked for,
Yeah.
he asked for a GFI down in the sump
right,
for his dehumidifier to run.
that's there, that was always there.
He said it wasn't, it's,
Oh,
they
what-
rerouted off of that one, it's there now.
Yeah, that was during the construction, and they had, you know, stopped cut wires in one location and rewired, and it was just during the construction. They never like left the job and it wasn't done. We noticed that they needed to rewire those other outlets, and we told them that, and that was it. That wasn't any issue. It was during construction.
And my other thing here
Yeah,
is,
Blaine wasn't there the whole day I
why are we doing
was
these
there.
change orders without, we're doing it all in a verbal, and it doesn't sound like everybody's on the same page when you did this. I
Hmm.
understand we were bypassing the station, we were renting a pump to bypass the station.
Yeah.
How much was that pump a day? That was like
$2,000,
$2,000?
yes,
So if we would have delayed, it would have probably cost us more money.
absolutely.
But we-
And damage to componentry. I mean, the sub pump, but for example, you can't let it was really hot as well this summer to allow water to sit and evaporate. The dehumidifier was going crazy when we went and checked that, so.
Well, it's my opinion that we weren't very clear on this whole project. I
Hmm.
mean, the project was supposed to be done in April, it gets done June 20th. We had a lot of problems with this whole project, starting with the pumps coming from Sweden, and we were backed up, and it just, you know, I thought we had enough lead time going into this. Blaine had asked to have this done in April for the spring rains when it came. We were lucky we got through it all without,
Yeah,
we had a lot of problems in the rest of our system. I'm just not happy about the whole thing. I mean, if we owe the money, we owe the money, but
Yeah,
I'm not
it's-
happy about how it came down, and nobody was informed that there was extra overruns. I call these overruns. You call them change orders. I would have thought you would have had enough time to go through this and know some of this stuff, like the surge protector and that. Why wasn't that figured in there, that $880 in our initial bid?
for the GFI,
The GFI, yeah,
on the outside of those.
on the outside of the
panel.
cabinet. Why wasn't that in the design?
It doesn't necessarily have to be there. It was there because we were applying to emergency. And so, and then, you know, these are like, in my experience, all right, and this is not the only municipality that I do this with, all right, that I perform this function. Replying to emergencies such as this is common. Yesterday, I was dealing with an emergency in New Baltimore, worse than this. And this is not something that should shock you. It's maintaining the system in operation. $4,000, yeah, I admit, if it was a $4,000 charge and you had nothing to show for it, then I would say, wow, you're paying labor and emergency response or the bypass, for example. You'd have nothing to show for that. But here you have replacements of these were all decisions that were made, and they were good decisions, that replaced a level sensor that it's the only one that they have.
We're agreeing with
You
the
know,
level sensor.
yeah,
I have no
the-
problem
the-
with the level sensor.
The GFI receptacle, and it says also the additional 110 circuit tie-off, and it has to do with replying to the emergency of a power surge through it, all right? I've asked for the diagnostics from Kennedy Industries so that we know how to best handle that in the future. So I never received anything yet, but I personally saw the HMI's codes going off. So, and I was there at 9:30 and saw the 20 amp breaker broke. So, yeah, most people will be there doing their whatever morning routine and see the lights flicker and they don't know what
I
that
went
is.
over there the
you
other
know?
day and I was looking at the breakers you got
So-
there on the pole.
Mhm.
The one breaker is broke and got a lock on it. I could have activated that breaker.
Mhm.
Why wasn't that fixed when we were there?
That's the generator switch. That's to go
That's
from,
what that's for?
yeah. And that
Where they
was,
hook the generator in?
correct.
Oh,
They didn't want us to change anything.
okay.
I asked DPW that. So a lot of these decisions had to be made in collaboration with the operators, right? And so there's a lot of things that they're comfortable with, and I had to respect that. I mean, that's their operation procedures. And so things like the old SCADA and how that works, that's what they're comfortable with, fine. The way the generator switch works and how they already have a plug for that and they already have a generator, the procedure for pulling the generator up and doing that, I left that alone, right? But yeah, absolutely, there's a lot of things that need to be gone through in the
I just think
town.
the whole project didn't go smooth. That's my opinion. I didn't go over there during the construction. I mean, I drove by it a lot, but,
Yeah,
I mean, the time delays, the dealing with our resident there was, that all got messed up. I've been over there 3 or 4 times talking to the resident.
yeah, and I've also spoken to him personally.
I mean, he's not happy. I mean, he was gracious enough to give us you guys asked for an easement to step onto his property, and he gave that up graciously, and then I've got all these problems with it, you know, with the
But I think no-
landscaping. He was supposed to be consulted on the landscaping, he wasn't consulted.
Right.
Then, it got into the mess about watering these shrubs, and they told him, well, it only takes 5 gallons. It shouldn't be his responsibility to water them, it shouldn't be his water that was put on them.
Well, he can't say to someone, yeah, I'll go along with that, and I'll water that, and then 10 minutes later, turn around and say, oh, I never said that. That's called lying.
Whatever.
I talked to the resident myself personally. I wrote notes the day that I did, and I talked to you about it. So I know that he was what he had said and that he'd be willing to commit
He called me over
to.
there that night. Brad.
I didn't get into the conversation between the
Yeah, I was
contractor
in
and him,
a couple
but
of
I
times.
believe that the contractor probably did have that conversation, and he said the same thing he said to my face, which was that he would be willing to work with the township to do that. He obviously had a wish list of demands, right?
Right.
And some of them, I said to them, I can't tell you that you'll get any of those things, but I can convey your wishes. That's what I can do.
But that was a deal that you made with the landscaper, and,
not a de- I
not
mean,
you, but the
yeah.
landscaper made it with him.
In hindsight, I regret getting involved. As a township engineer, that's not my job,
Right.
but I'm
It's
trying
not
to
my
be,
job as a township
right,
supervisor.
I'm trying to be
over there.
helpful in
My
providing,
residents use their own water to water shrubs that we
Right.
paid to have a contract to water.
right, I mean,
My DPW
he
was
should
over there
have-
watering too.
yeah, he should
I didn't
have,
know.
he should have probably, been more
Well,
aggressive or active in, making a good agreement with that resident. Overall, it seems reasonable if somebody says, yeah, if you give me $50 or whatever, I'll water the flowers, and that's an agreement that they have between themselves. I don't see anything wrong with that.
but that agreement never came about.
That's what I'm saying. He should have been more active. I
Right.
agree. All I can do is put them together, right?
Right.
Anthony,
So-
can ask a question? What's the capacity of the sump that was put in?
I don't know exactly how many GPMs standard sump pump, but it was about the level sensor. The level float in that sump pump was not adjustable. And so it was not able to be adjusted down to the level to prevent it from flooding the dry pit floor. And so they needed to replace that. And obviously, once it's put in water,
But
they're not gonna
is it-
restock that.
Is it the standard type residential sump pump?
Yeah, exactly, like you'd
Okay,
find in
I
your
was just
basement.
wondering, $678?
The only thing I'll say is it's obviously gonna be of an industrial quality, because it's for,
We're not paying for that, that isn't on this.
it's not on his change order, and I put it in my notes because I wanted it to be followed up on, that either we're getting 2 sub pumps and we'll use the other one as a backup in the next stations, or that he got returned and that's no longer an issue, because, they took the new one, gave us a credit and replaced it.
Okay,
So-
was just trying to picture
Yeah, sure,
what this was, because,
yeah.
obviously that's fairly expensive, even in industrial. That's a significant price tag for a sump pump.
Yeah,
I agree. Just like the $880 for the wiring is excessive.
mhm.
Will all of these items be taken into consideration in the next lift station?
Yeah, these and then some. Every station has its own issues. The next 2 stations, Meisner and Bell River, Meisner has a force main that's attached to the side of a bridge deck.
You better
Which-
explain what a force main is.
Oh, sorry. So you have, these lift stations or pump stations are raising the level, obviously, from downstream to upstream, and they'll usually pump out. The way these are all designed are dry can stations, so it's like a missile silo. You go down inside it, all your pumps are dry. They're not submersible. And they pump out a pipe that's forcing, they call it force main because it's full of water all the time as the pump is operating, and takes it to the high level or wherever it dumps it, and that carries on downstream. And in crossings, river crossings in particular, you have a very high consequence of failure because you can have a high contamination issue, you know? And if towns are drawing their water supply from that river, that's a bigger problem even. So, Meisner Road, where it crosses the Bell River, there's a bridge. And I have not seen that anywhere where I operate, that there's a force main on the bridge. Usually it's under the river, underground, and comes out on the other side in a manhole and dumps there. And that carries on by gravity to the next station. Sometimes that happens. It's never designed that way today, to design it on the side of a bridge because of issues of freezing and everything. And, you know, also you're tied then to any county work on that road or on that bridge. And so, and to add to that issue, that bridge is old and I guess in a dilapidated state. And so, you know, all these things, to kind of answer your question, yes, we will obviously do our very best, and obviously all these things that we experienced on this station, we're going to take into consideration on the next one. Some of them are township specific and will be easy
Like
to
that bridge
rectify.
there was a bridge to the south of that bridge that's there. Now, you're talking
Yeah.
about directional buoying underneath the river right there.
Correct.
You're probably gonna run into the footings from that old bridge.
Yeah,
They
they
already
did.
have.
Well, already
That's probably
have.
why it's on the bridge now, because they put
I-
a directional bore under there.
What happened
well-
was Waitrim was gonna drill a new line under the riverbed. And they got so far with the bore, and it wouldn't go any further, and they
I would
pulled
doubt it
out,
though.
And all it was oak piling.
Right.
The reason I would doubt it is because the old bridge is on the other side.
What side?
It's on the north side, the old bridge, where it was, according to what we have.
It isn't, right, Don? Where was the old bridge? Where
It's on
was the old
it's on
bridge?
the
What
south
of the
side.
bridge?
I don't know if
Was that
that's south
side?
or
South side.
They
south
ran
side.
into them footings already.
That's
They
what I
were
remember.
Working on the sewer.
Yeah, it won't matter. We can do a directional board. There's a manhole on the north side too, if that was an issue.
Well,
But-
let's
Yeah.
continue with this
Correct.
issue here.
There's a way to
I just
resolve
wanted to
that.
explain what a force main is, that
Yeah.
you have to force it underneath the river to the next high point, then the
Yeah.
gravity flows from there.
Yeah,
But you're asking for $3,342. As far as I'm concerned, this sump pump is your baby. The $678, I think, is exorbitant for a household sump pump because of the one that gets travel. Have we done the depth of the sump?
yeah. It matters none to me. I go home and I don't pay for a sump pump, but the contractor has done that work. I would say on that one, that we determine where the other sub pump is, because there's nothing wrong with that new sub pump. It's just not appropriate for that pit. And if it wasn't, the question was, could it be returned or not if it's been put into, dirty water? Will they restock that? And so if they will restock it, if Kennedy had agreed to, then you could ignore number 4.
Well, I say we
If
ignore
they,
it right now.
if they didn't,
It's not on our
then
sheet.
you have 2 sub pumps, right? The contractor didn't keep the other one. So we just need to make sure that the DPW
Well,
has
I
that.
talked to Blaine, and he
Yeah.
didn't know where the other sump pump was.
Right, and I did send a message to the contractor after you told me that to say, can they give us any idea where it is? But yeah, no, I agree, and that's why it's not on their change order, because I told them I would bring that up to their attention, and it was still in the works. I was still convincing them to
Well, I guess my
honor
opinion
their,
on this is if we have any more change orders in the
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
I think they should be written. Nobody hesitates to send emails to everybody.
right,
And then you have a written document. But to doing these change orders on verbal, yeah, we need this done, we need to know prices, we need to have somebody sign that thing.
Yeah.
Whether it be me, Blaine, a board member, or somebody.
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
get a hold of somebody in a day.
yeah,
I mean, the township isn't that big. We have people that are authorized to do things.
yeah,
I mean, you could get a hold of Bob, I mean, Don, we have officers, we have
yeah.
board
And
members.
I do apologize, learning the way the township operates. We are new here. And so for us, there is some learning of how the township currently operates. I guess we were imposing, our previous way of operating, and there's nothing wrong with different forms of operation. That's something like Herb said that we're gonna adjust to moving forward. You know, like this whole issue we had with integration into the old system, that's an easy fix now that I know the whole picture, right? And so, the next station, you'll hear nothing of that. That's gonna be totally seamless. In fact, I have MIC's price to do that small part themselves. I'll leave it at a point, which is fine, and then they'll take it from there, and that's gonna work
I
just
thought
fine.
that's what our original agreement was, but I guess.
I never knew who MIC was, never talked to him, never met him in my life, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Another
That was a surprise that
Yeah.
foisted upon me, but anyway. So yeah, so that's,
So we're asking for
Explanation of everything.
33.42, I think, is what that adds up to,
Yes, that's the total.
doesn't it?
yeah, it's the one change order here
That's not counting the sump pump, because that wasn't on.
not
There's no price on the sump pump.
that needs to be tracked down.
I have a question.
Sure.
How often do those surges happen? You know,
A lot.
we're right next door to DTE. I'm just curious why that protection wasn't built in.
There's surge protection there. But when a surge happens in certain controls, that share their line with communication. So what happened in ours is it tripped a breaker, which means the surge protection built into the cabinet worked and protect all
Right.
the expensive equipment, but it fried the communications line that was in the wire, you know? And so I told the manufacturer, you know, don't you guys not want to have that happen and, you know, not have to waste time in bringing a new pump and replacing it and everything? Wouldn't you want that to be? And they said, well, it handles, like, they're gonna take that back, take that wire off, put the new wire on. So they've made a business decision on their end that when those surges come through, there's a certain amount that's protected, but it's just not cost effective
Okay.
to try to stop every possible thing that could happen to it. Because there's certain things that they can easily fix, and it's not a huge, it's a business decision on their part. They're selling hundreds and hundreds of these, and so they decide how they manage their warranty
So
issues.
we're covered under surge protection now.
Oh, yeah, there's big surge protection built into those cabinets, there's always has been. It's just it didn't protect the comm line, and that's just how they designed it. And it's all their design from the power in to the pump. It's all that one manufacturer, yeah. Well, Flight, but Kennedy's the supplier, correct?
That's like, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so
And,
you had,
but it happens all the time.
And
I
you-
just had a surge 2 days ago in New Baltimore in the station. And DT says, well, we can't confirm that we had it or not had it, or, that's just how they are. It's what you have to live with.
but you had so let me tell you back and tell me if I'm correct.
Yeah.
You had a surge protection in place,
Mhm.
but it was too big of a surge, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I can't tell you,
Okay.
maybe I can tell you how much surge went through. I mean, it tripped a 20 amp breaker, yeah.
Yeah.
But all that was recorded in the controls. There's a computer that's recording everything that's happening, including, how many times that pump stops, reverses itself from a clog, and all those features. And so, they just allow the comm line to get fried, and once you have no communications with the pump, it stops. It doesn't mean that the pump's no good anymore, but we can't get it to start without replacing that whole wire.
Right, okay,
So-
because we're trying to have confidence
Yeah.
in you as an engineer, so
Mhm.
now I better understand. Thank you.
Is the comm line still susceptible to surge?
Larry, in the future, these change
Yeah.
orders should be approved first.
Just a minute,
Yeah.
Bob's got a question.
Oh, she's still talking?
Yeah.
Just a question, with the new GFI and all of that, is the comm line protected? Or if we get a extreme surge? I know, you said it was a business decision, and I can understand, there's a certain part that they.
Yeah, so the comm line's still susceptible, but now with the new GFI and the way that it's wired, we'll be able to maintain a allowable work environment, because the station is underground, so it requires that ventilation of air and lighting in order to send somebody down there to do the thing. So that GFI and the wiring allows us to react. And so we're under warranty with the manufacturer on that. And so, you know, they'll have to honor that warranty.
Was
if
that part of that
surge comes
880 to replace that line, is that,
through. The 880, no, that was free.
that was all on them?
That was all on them, yeah. But I still have the same kind of feeling that you're expressing where, you know, we still are vulnerable. And I've expressed that.
That's what I was trying to get at, is that
Absolutely.
there's still a certain amount of vulnerability,
Absolutely.
which there's no real way of.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking in our design, and I've kind of have that in our future budgets for pump stations, to put additional safety factors that my electrical designer has thought up, on top of what Kennedy provides.
But there may always be some point where it's just not cost effective to.
For us, we could do it. It's just they won't. You know, like they have their package, and we're gonna have to add to the package in order to.
And that's your intent?
That's my intent. Yeah. Yeah. But you know, it's
Well,
something
to
that we can
summarize
adjust in
some
the
of
next
this,
48 months.
We got stuff for our money.
Yeah.
We got, even though I think it's too much money for what we got.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how, I guess we owe the bill.
And I agree with Mr. Horn that these things need to be approved ahead of time.
That's what I said.
Absolutely.
I think that's just a communication thing, like you said, Anthony, you're just coming in here, you're working, and, I mean, we've always, in the past, always had our
Yep.
change orders and writing and everything like that, so it's just a communication thing that we're just gonna have to iron out.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess a motion would be in order to pay the 3342, is that?
I'll make a motion that we pay change order number 1 in the amount of $3,342.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we pay the 3342 for the 3 change orders, the transducer, the electrical, and the music. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Freehan, yes. Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Pitsalas?
Yes,
Mr. Horn? Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Motion carries, we pay the 3342.
I just want to say one more thing. So, you know, I'm almost done with estimating all for the next 2 stations. So I would like to bring that and present it to you guys, because maybe I can do a presentation and explain all the different components of the new station. Maybe that way you'll see all the different decisions that are put into place.
I can put it on the agenda one time to
Yeah,
talk about it.
and then I can touch on these little items, especially things that we've learned.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. So that concludes our old business now. Announcements, I don't have any announcements right now. We'll move on to member comments. Mr. Horn.
The only one I have is I see the county has put the culvert in over on Rinclaw Road. They are started on that.
I guess I could make that as an announcement, that it's supposed to be done by Monday the 27th. So the public out there, the road will be closed. The entrance to the park will be off of King Road. Unless you're using the soccer park, then you can come off 29. Did they put any signage out there for that, Cindy? Did you?
I'm not sure. I didn't come in that way because I knew I couldn't get through today.
The park entrance until next Monday will be
From King Road.
from King Road. They're gonna try to get it done Friday and maybe just have gravel over it to let people go across it, but he couldn't. They don't know what they'll run into, so he said, I would rather we keep the Monday date, and if we get it done sooner, we get it done. But we've already notified all the people that are renting pavilions.
Yeah,
and,
I took care of that.
We took care of that.
That's all I have.
Mr. Salas?
I just got a couple things. I'd like to thank Teresa for her 27 years of service that she's given our community. She's been a tremendous asset to us, and I wish her the best of luck in her retirement and her health, which is her main concern at this point in time, to be with her and her family. And again, Teresa, thank you very much for your years of service, and good luck to you. And as summer here draws to a close, once again, it's football season. So our Mighty Mariners, we open on Thursday at Sterling Heights, and I wish them the best of luck this year and looking for a good year for them. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Boda?
Same for me. I would like to hope Teresa the best of luck and the best of health. And one other thing is, as Supervisor Simon stated earlier in the meeting about people for the beautification committee, if there's some people out there that would like to volunteer, otherwise this thing is going to close up by, I believe it's October. They're going to close shop, and I'd hate to see that. And I would just hope that there's people out there that would like to get involved in that. That's all I have.
Okay. Bob?
Just a comment, I'd like to thank all of the people who came out on August the 7th and voted. We had, for a primary election, it was much larger turnout than is normal. And I'd like to thank the election workers who, we actually had to borrow some people from other townships in order to have a sufficient number of people to make the election work as well as it did. And they did a very good job, and things turned out very well. So I was happy with them. That was my first experience, needless to say, at the last minute coming in. And I also want to thank Wendy Meldrum, who, Algonac Clay Township, who was actually spearheading most of the things. And one of the things that she did was to provide access to the qualified voter list. So we had to have access to solve problems, and she is the only one. I'm not certified in that at this point. So she was able to solve a number of problems as they came up, and I think by the comments from the people that voted, the primary concern that they have was we didn't remember to get stickers that said, "I voted."
Oh.
So we will get those next time, which brings me up to the next point. Currently, East China Township has nobody certified for the QVF. And I just this past Thursday and Friday, I attended a seminar in Lansing for election certification. So I am now certified to actually conduct an election. So you have somebody on board. I didn't know all of the procedures, so I just drove up there, and it was a 2-day seminar, 2 8-hour days. So I spent one night there. And I also signed up for QVF certification, and that's on Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday, August the 29th. That's only 3 hours. That's the earliest I could get in was the next session, and that's August the 29th. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's in Grand Rapids. Now, I could get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive to Grand Rapids, but I don't know what your feelings are. I don't have it on the agenda, but
Bob just brought this meeting, just before the meeting. I really think that the board should make a motion to cover his expenses for, this is something we're demanding of him, that he be certified, and if these are the only classes that you can go to.
and they are not done online, by the way. I can't do them.
So, and that's in our policy too, you know.
Right.
This board's not covered under that policy.
Right.
So I would think a motion to reimburse him for his one-night stay that he went this week. And I already told him that we would do his mileage. I mean, that's automatic in mileage, but whatever expenses he incurred, I think we should reimburse him.
Just by way of information, my night stay was at the Comfort Inn in Lansing, and it was $90.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, I guess we're still in session. We can make that motion if somebody wants.
I'll make a motion that we reimburse Bob for his.
For the expenses of last week and next week, right?
Yes.
I will support.
All right, it's been moved and supported that we have a motion to reimburse Bob, because we're directing him to go and get this certification. Like you said, we don't have anybody.
Well, one of the problems we have right now is I cannot access the QVF, and we get somebody that comes in and fills out voter registration forms right here, well, you do that online, and I can't do that.
You can't get online.
So we have people applying for voter registration that right now, if they come in here, we have to
get
tell them,
Wendy or Sandy.
yes, and Wendy will not be back until the end of this month, so.
She canceled that. Should be Friday.
Oh.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion on that?
Who was the second on that?
Kathy. So, if there's no further discussions, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand, yes. Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Potzales?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstar?
Yes.
Motion carries, we reimburse him for his expenses. Okay, that all you got?
Yes.
Herb?
Just thank you very much to Teresa for all her work over the last 27 years, and all the best. Hope you're feeling better.
Kathy?
Yeah, Teresa, good luck to you. Thank you for all of your help. And Bob, great job with the election. That's all. Thank you.
I have a couple things. One is, I want to thank Teresa like everybody else. I mean, she's been around here for a lot of years. She's handled a lot of personal cases in this township with water bills, and she's listened to a lot of complaints and probably more than she probably should have over those years, but it goes with the job. And I think she's done a great job, and I want to wish her a long and happy retirement. We've been meeting with DTE on this new power plant. We had a meeting here, I think it was last Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. Kind of a kickoff of, what they're looking for permit-wise and stuff like that. Then we had another meeting last Friday over there at the Bell River Power Plant. It was all of our inspectors, and we met with the contractor that's building the plant. So it's a learning experience for us and our inspectors as it is for DTE, because they haven't built a power plant here in 83, whenever they built Bell River. So I think it's something we're really striving to keep the lines of communication open. DTE wants to keep them open. We sent everybody a letter. As you read in that letter, they're gonna actually have a webcam up there, and you'll be able to see, what's going on, and hopefully it all goes well. I just want to let you know that we're working on those issues. They're gonna be coming to the planning commission with the plans. I believe it's next month. So, the one thing in correlation to what Bob said, I think we're looking for more election workers.
Yes.
And if anybody that would be interested in doing that, I mean, there's training we can send you to. We have a big election coming up in November. It'll be a lot on that ballot. And I think Bob and Wendy did just a great job on this election. I haven't heard one complaint about how it went. I mean, I think that's a tribute to you two and on short notice to get in there and do all that. I mean, they were scrambling. They were learning a lot in a short time.
We were lucky.
We were lucky that we got through it. And I have all the confidence in the world that Bob will be able to run this next one with maybe just a little bit of guidance, huh?
That's our goal.
That's our goal, good. The other thing, we accepted Teresa's resignation and retirement. What are we gonna do with that job? What does the board wanna do with that job? We've appointed Irene to be the deputy treasurer. I asked if she would be interested in being the utility billing clerk. She shows an interest in that. Now, I said, well, it's a board decision if we're gonna do that, and then we'd have to hire somebody in Sandy Doctor's job, or does the board have any inclination what they would like to do?
I believe you should let Irene take it if she's interested. She's got a little experience in it, I would
But
imagine.
she doesn't have a lot of experience in the water billing, so it would be some training. But I just wanted to have some guidance, what do we wanna do, or do we wanna keep working the way we are with Wendy and Wendy doing the billing and till we can get straightened out. I just need, I guess, a little guidance on what way we want to go.
Well, perhaps,
What's the board's opinion?
perhaps Teresa can come in for a
Teresa
short,
can't come in.
well, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying for a short period of time to answer some questions if she's got it.
She's willing to do that, yes.
One of the things, Mr. Simon, I think it's important to keep in mind, we also need to look for a deputy clerk, because there's a lot of paperwork that goes on. As I said, things like registration, people come in, they want forms. We processing absentee ballots, you have to process those right away, and I'm not here 40 hours a week. So you really need to look at your whole staffing and who brings what experience to various positions. I know you pointed Irene as deputy treasurer, and that's an important function. The deputy clerk it works best if you have somebody
That's an employee.
who is an employee.
You have, what, 45 days to appoint that person?
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
So I only bring it up because there's a whole mix of things I think that need to be looked at.
And just to piggyback up on that, I think right now we're in the final stages of getting a township manager. I think that person should have a say in what direction our office and is gonna be heading in. So I agree with what you're saying, Larry, that we need to do it, but I would like to see if we could hold on here for another month or another meeting, because like I said, we're in the final stages of a township manager. We can see what way they want to go and what we want to do with that, and then what we need to fill in. I mean, I think they should have a say in what's going to
As long
happen.
as Wendy's coming in and we're utilizing her, and then Sandy Smith we're using as a backup
Right.
to that, so I mean, I think, but there's some things that we're not getting done. We've made it 2 months or more with Teresa being off. I would think we can make it a little longer. I just want some direction on that.
I just think it's going to be very, very interesting in these next couple months for our office.
Okay.
We have, I think it's going to be a whole new office. I mean, a lot of people have left, a lot of people have retired, we've had some resignations. We only have one person that is in that office that has been here, so we're going to have a whole new crew coming in. And I think it's very important that the changes we make are for the better. And I think we need that township manager on hand to help us with that decision, because he's going to be the one running it, so.
He or she.
He or she, correct, he or she.
You also need to look at agreements, contractual agreements, employee agreements, and
Correct.
the union contracts
Yep.
and things like
Yep.
that, too.
And I've done some looking into the union contract too, about replacement jobs and
Okay.
pay and stuff like that. But I really think, in the interim, I think Bob's gonna have to appoint somebody.
Correct.
You know, even if he could appoint, I believe, I talked to the MTA, and you could appoint a trustee, you could appoint me, you could appoint somebody else to be your deputy in the interim, and then when we get straightened out, then appoint that person to be well, the biggest thing is the check signing.
Yeah.
You know, if Bob were to go out of town, like when he goes to the thing for the day, if we had to have checks signed, we can't do them.
Right.
So it really ties our hands by not having, because we have to have one from each side, and there's only 4 check signers. Okay, I just wanted direction, so we'll hold off on that. Guess that's all I had. So I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn at, about 8:53.
Support.
We got a motion and a support to adjourn at 8:53. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.